Hello, everyone. Let's just wait for a few people to sit. I see they're coming now. So, hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I hope everyone enjoyed the show so far, and I want to thank you for staying until the end to hear us speak. My name is Georgios Chantziaras, and I'm part of a digital team called Smart Factory, led by Hockley. We're part of Pfizer's digital manufacturing organization. And our overall goal is to leverage innovative technology like XR and AI to support our manufacturing plants and to enable our frontline to be more efficient by reducing human error and improving their overall productivity. For today's presentation, we want to put ourselves in the place of the audience and think of what would be valuable to share when we're trying to implement innovative technology in manufacturing, what are some of the roadblocks, what are some of the best practices we can follow to be successful. So with that, I will start with our AR journey so far. And I'll take it from the beginning. We had our customers, our manufacturing plants, coming to us with some big pain points that they had identified. Especially during COVID, when we were trying to scale up at a really high pace to meet our global market demand, we're seeing that our procedures and also our environments were becoming more and more complex, and our operators needed that extra layer of guidance to perform their tasks. We're also seeing that usually they needed to navigate between multiple siloed systems to get the information they needed in order to make their decisions. In addition, sometimes there were issues that we could not predict, and when those issues did occur, we didn't have a clear root cause or a clear corrective course of action. Finally, we saw there was a lot of tacit knowledge that was not digitized and was living with our more experienced SMEs. So what we did at Smart Factory, we researched the market and we identified augmented reality as a potential technology that can solve these issues. We always have this startup mentality, we want to quickly try out the latest and greatest tech and see if we can get value out of them. So we approached AR from both hardware and software. On the hardware side, we trialed out a lot of devices, wearables, mobile devices, tablets, and headsets. And on the software side, we tried out the different components that can enable these AR experiences, like QR code, image targets, 3D scans, and cloud anchors. We initially focused on the more high-value use cases, and we're happy to see that the initial feedback from our early adopters was really positive, and the demand was adding up. So in order to meet the complex requirements of our customers, and we are in a space where it's really highly regulated, we have some additional restrictions. What made sense for us is to opt for an in-house development model. So we set up our own internal delivery pipeline. At the focus of it, we have the Unity 3D engine that allows us to quickly develop, prototype, and deploy AR solutions. We formed our own internal agile teams consisting of 3D designers, artists, and developers that were able to take the business requirements and convert them to end-to-end AR experiences and then deploy them in a compliant way. We don't always want to reinvent the wheel. Whenever it makes sense, we also partner up with third parties, and we're trying to also use existing solutions to fill the gaps in our processes. Our next milestone was about systems and data. So a basic aspect of augmented reality is the ability to bring the right information to the right user to the right location. So what we did there is work closely with our supporting teams within digital manufacturing, and we had the goal to standardize, democratize, and catalog all of our data, and then add this spatial context to them. So as a result, we can bring them into our immersive experiences. We also put a lot of focus in our user journey research and our persona mapping. So we came up with these connected worker interfaces. The main concept of it is to be able to bring multiple systems together in a single pane of glass and enable that end-to-end visibility of processes, and also the visibility of the next critical task for each persona. We also came to realize that the wearables, the smart glasses, were not that mature yet to be fully adopted, and they could not be used for a full shift. So that's why we decided to go with mobile devices, with tablets specifically. And as you can see, we opted for these setups that we can have maybe a trolley or a movable cart on the floor. The iPad is set up on top of it, and we can still have this air element, but our operators can also perform the more complex tasks with their hands-free when needed. So this takes us to today. After a lot of trying and a couple of OGI awards later, we are in a phase where we are using AI and AR together. So the first step was to have our data in the right format, and then we were able to train our predictive models, our predictive AI models, and find correlation between all of our historical manufacturing data. So what we are doing now is during a new production, during a new campaign or a batch, we can compare to those historical patterns, and if we see that we are deviating from them, we can instantly notify our users of an issue. Then we're bringing GenAI into the mix. So we're deploying LLM models that can quickly scan through our large knowledge base of SOPs, work instructions, user logs, and generate targeted action points for our users. We're then taking it to a step further. We're converting this textual output to an AR experience. So we're enabling this seamless transition from the 2D interface to the more immersive location-based experience. Something to note here is we don't want to add AR everywhere, but only when it makes sense. We don't add extra noise to the operators, only when there's those more complex tasks that require this extra level of guidance, then we jump into the AR layer. We're still in baby steps here on this field, as we believe the whole industry, but we're already excited to see some value coming out of it. We were really happy to share also during the keynote and throughout the week that there are many that believe that AR will be the interface to AI, and this for sure needs the hardware to evolve in the same way, so we're hoping to see maybe wearables in the future enabling this in a better way. But for us, it will still be a big part of our future roadmap, and we're excited for it. So I would like to pass it over now to Nick to talk about our XR training space. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, George. Hey, everybody. I am Nicholas Hockley, and I am a product manager for our XR training at Pfizer. I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here, sticking it out to the end. You know what they say you save the best for last, or maybe in our case, the last one is the request for a speaker spot, but here we are. So XR training, before I get into some of the specifics around it, I'd like to say, around the mission and, I think the one thing that XR opens up for Pfizer and for manufacturing as a whole was really extending the reality, like literally extending the reality of our most valuable assets. And those are our people, and that's our manufacturing shop floor. Our manufacturing shop floor is our lifeblood of our operations. And if we don't have that, then we have no Pfizer. And if we don't have people, we have no Pfizer. So what we've been doing in the extended reality training space is actually bringing and virtualizing our manufacturing shop floor and bringing it to the people that need the information to perform their jobs and their processes on the line. So some of the problems that we saw around the training space before XR was limited access to our manufacturing areas, the requirement to have multiple repetitions on the physical equipment that's very hard to access on the training lines, lengthy SOPs, 100-plus pages long, that really didn't have a lot of retention when people were going through it, and human error that can cause production delays. So some of the ways that we actually approach this to solve this, it's kind of a four-pronged approach, is our virtual twins, which you can see in the video right here, where we actually started 3D scanning all of our manufacturing environments, and really that's our backbone to to all of our VR training that we build as well. So this is for, as George mentioned, our anchoring for our AR, and also we use to actually develop our custom 3D assets on the manufacturing line as well. And this enables our custom VR training, which you can see here, where we're actually completely virtualizing and creating immersive, interactive VR training spaces for our shop floor workers. They're able to interact with objects within the space and actually go through step-by-step the trainings that they need to carry out. Another area that we're expanding into is 360 video training as well. So, depending on the use case and the scenario, it might make more sense to actually leverage 360 video, like you can see here, instead of a fully immersive, interactive training experience. And there's also a cost differentiator there as well. And lastly, the kind of the backbone behind all of that is our Pfizerverse platform, which hosts all of this content. Makes it able for you. Enables you to actually create multi-user experiences where a GMP qualified trainer can join the same space as a trainee and actually have real-time dialogue over the virtual equipment and kind of even quiz them and also ask them questions so they can actually understand if they know the procedure that they're going through before they even can step foot on the line. So really, there's multiple pronged approach to really extending the reality, right? We're extending reality here, and if we can take our assets, the production floor, and extend that to the people that need it at the time they need it, we are unlocking a lot of value that way. But to get there and to get even just the clips that you saw there was a journey, much like the AR journey as well. In 2018, starting with a lot of research, we were looking across the market, understanding the immersive technology that was available, identifying use cases to understand really how XR, VR, et cetera, was going to make an impact on what we were doing within digital manufacturing. In 2019, we started to partner with a few vendors, and we built some proof of concepts in the VR training, in the 3D scanning space, really just to kind of understand conceptually and have something that we can internally market to get in front of the right folks so they could see conceptually how this could be applied in manufacturing. In 2020, obviously, it was the year that COVID hit, so there was a lot of demand to move to more virtual learning formats. And actually in 2020, some of those proof of concepts that we built with the 3D scanning technology, we were able to show the right people in the business at Pfizer, and they wanted to adopt the early days of that virtual twin technology that you saw. And now we're at 16 sites globally with over 2,000 scans. So we actually created a self-service model where we were able to actually send the scanners to the sites, and the sites were able to replicate these areas and show the people on the actual production that worked on the production floor and externally what was happening inside of these areas. So this is really kind of the first moment where we enabled desktop XR, I guess you could say, where people were experiencing this extended reality of a production floor on their desktop. And in 2021, much like the AR journey, this is where we started to bring our development in-house, because one of the things we realized in 2019 with the vendor bills is there was a lot of ongoing costs when trainings were changing. So there was a lot of cost efficiency with actually building them internally and managing the code base moving forward. So this is where we started to build some of those custom VR trainings you're seeing and really reducing the cost of the development and also seeing some of that value around the reduction of training time, reduction in human error for the trainings that we were building. In 2022, really was a focus on centralization. We started to have these different virtualized manufacturing environments where we had training in, we have the code that we own, and that we're able to iterate and build more and more trainings on. We're building an asset base to be able to enable these trainings. but we didn't have a centralized way for people to start accessing them. We also didn't have a way to enable that multi-user experience. So this is when we created Pfizerverse. So Pfizerverse is like essentially like a menu Netflix channel where you could go in and you see all the trainings for a certain area that we've built. All the different areas are there. You can join there as a free roam, or you can actually go into the training experience with your trainer to go through the training together or individually. So really that was taking all of the data that we've collected so far from the 3D enablement and the in-house design and centralizing that in an easy-to-use centralized location. And lastly, that leads us to the 2023 and the present, where we're starting to actively explore XR and AI. From the VR perspective, we're really seeing asset optimization being a really big player in the XR and AI space in terms of optimizing our 3D asset pipeline to be able to generate textures and objects and things like that to reduce the amount of time it takes to actually build environments and the objects that we're going to be using in the spaces, feeding it feeding a generative AI reference images so it can actually create the objects that we need. Generative voice, so actually having the ability to speak with somebody within a model that's trained to actually be an expert on the trainings in the space when they go in, to actually reduce the need for trainer interactions in there. And then also a generative avatar. So this is, the full embodied AI avatar that can take you through a training and you can have a real-time dialogue and conversation with. So these are the areas that I think from an XR perspective are really excited to explore in the future with XR and AI. Thank you. I will be passing it off to Sachin.
Thanks, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm the cool techie guy here. So hi, hello everyone. My name is Sachin Sharma, and I am the tech lead for the Smart Factory team. And personally, I'm very excited to talk about the interesting work which we are doing in Pfizer in terms of XR and AI, right? So firstly, I would like to give a quick overview of the current technical stack which we use for building XR application in Pfizer. So basically, we start with the content creation, where we take the CAD drawings, the 360-degree scans from Matterport, feed them into a 3D modeling tool like as a Maya, Blender, 3D Max, and create the assets and animations. And then if you're building an AR application, so you probably need to do a spatial awareness setup. So depending on the environment and the use case, we kind of use image tracking, plane detection, cloud anchors, area targets, right? And in terms of development platform, we use Unity because it's a more diverse tool and easy to use. And we also use Xcode for building our native UI Apple applications, basically. In terms of SDK and APIs, it depends on the requirements. So if you are building an AR application, we use ARKit, ARCore, Vuforia. And if you are building VR applications, we are using XR Interaction Toolkit. And as Nick mentioned, right, we are building collaborative experiences. So we probably end up using networking libraries as Photon for the multiplayer stuff. And yeah, we also use some cloud streaming for rendering 3D assets at runtime, actually. Then that comes the data part. That's a more key part. So we kind of use the data on the shop floors from the IoT sensors and integrate into our XR applications using microservices, API, and connectors. And once that's all done, we kind of package it and we test out the application using TestFlight, App Labs, and once the validation team's done the testing part, then it's packaged and deployed into production using MDM such as Quest for Business. We have a good partnership with Meta, so yeah, thanks to Meta for that. And yeah, and one last key important piece is the XR content management system. So you need probably a 3D CMS to distribute, manage, and provide access to the 3D assets which we have created because we have lots of trainings, lots of AR applications, so we need a 3D CMS, right? So here, what I really wanted to talk to you about is how can we improve the building blocks here, right? And I see AI playing a crucial role here. So for example, for the content creation part, right? Imagine you can create the 3D models on the fly, right? Using automated 3D modeling, right? What if you can create a VR environment using a simple text or using existing images, right? Wouldn't that be great? We are already doing that. And you can create textures for your 3D assets. So that's the path we want to go in terms of content creation. Spatial awareness, like, right, when we are doing the proof of concepts, when we are building the AR applications. So we observe that in terms of tracking, right, the reflection, the lighting plays an important role. So when we go to the actual environment, the tracking is not as good what we expect it to be. And that's where we think AI could play a crucial role, helping us understand the environment where we are and, improve the tracking process, basically. We could also use AI for quick retrieval of assets, tagging them, creation of personalized avatars, having powerful conversation interfaces, right? So it's the limit. The limit is endless here. Is using AI and XR. So what's next for us is in Pfizer we have a vision that we want XR to be the interface for AI. So on our shop floor, right? So we have this industrial M4.0 architecture where we want to collect all the data from different shop floor processes, feed them into like one single data channel, and from that feed into an AI Gen AI system, which can make our data smarter, predictive, more adaptive, and it could be more helpful for our shop floors operators to make better decisions on the shop floor. And also, we don't want to push XR. We want them to use as a wherever they want to use it. So, for example, if the operator requires a location-based guidance, we can probably add AR there. We can guide them, and or probably overlay some AR instructions on top of that, right? So, yeah, in Pfizer, we really believe that XI and AI will converge, and it will play a crucial role shaping up the manufacturing shop floor. So yeah, if you like our story, if you want to be part of us, and if you want to help us improve this building blocks of XR applications, we are open to collaborations. And yeah, thank you so much, and feel free to reach out to us. We are staying after the talk here also, so if you have any suggestions, any collaboration opportunities, we would love to hear. So yeah, thank you so much, and we are open to taking any questions you have.
Awesome. Just raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. All right.
You won an Augie yesterday, didn't you? Congratulations on that. I wanted to know what you thought were the elements of your build that actually won you the Augie.
So this was for the best use of AI, if I'm not wrong. And this, I think it's related to what we shared with you today. I think, as I mentioned, we're still in early stage there with Gen AI. I think the boom happened sometime last year. So everyone is trying to find the use case where we can actually add value through Gen AI. For us, as we said, we have this. We are lucky, actually, to have this vast knowledge base of data, of manufacturing historical data, that we can take advantage from. So, as we say, you can be better if you really know your past, and this translates to our predictive and generative models. So, we learn from our mistakes, from our past processes, and we can use that to make our new production runs better. And this has a direct impact in the product we are delivering. So, I think this is why maybe this award came to us, because we're really making an impact with AI and AR.
Can you talk a little bit more about what the user experience is in using the product? Like, how exactly is generative AI being used?
Okay. So we are using those large language models. And as I mentioned earlier, we're working in a highly regulated space. We need to have secure versions of those models. So currently within Pfizer, we have deployed our private instances of those large language models, and we use them to query our data. So essentially talk to our data. And AR comes into place with creating that easier interface to talk to the data, and then also visualize the result of that. So this we see where we see the sync between the two. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your journey and your experience with us. Can you give us some examples of the scales of your deployment, like how many devices, how many people you put through the training? And also, obviously, content creation and maintenance is, especially in 3D, is even more expensive than in video. Have you considered using AI to accelerate or optimize that? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say for the content creation, it's something that we've already been actively exploring. I think Sachin mentioned on the asset optimization in our pipeline of how we're creating our assets. It's something that we're trying to integrate Gen AI with, so we can reduce those development times for our assets. And in terms of our scale, you know, we're about 40-ish manufacturing sites across our network, and we have XR trading at about 20 of those. So it's about half the network that's leveraging some form of extended reality training.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I would like to know about the layers of abstractions that you have to do to deploy this system. Like, what comes first, the LLM and everything is based on LLM, or what are the other things that has to go parallel to each other for a better deployment of the system?
So the LLM is a part of the overall product. What I mentioned there is that it's really important to have the data in the right format. So in order for an AI model to work, it's as good as your data. So really big focus is put there to standardize our data catalog and add this extra context to them. So specifically for AR, add this spatial context to our data. So then they can be surfaced by our interfaces. So this is the high-level pipeline.
Sorry, I need a bit more, one more clarification. Can I ask, I mean, if it does not violate the NDA, obviously.
Should.
So the spatial awareness comes from the LLM, or it's completely separate?
Separate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. So your journey with all this started back in roughly 2018. So over, what, 6-7 years of time to build this entire pipeline and this massive undertaking. I'm sure that you've had plenty of pivots, pitfalls, you know, things that you've had to learn over the course. What would you say, in your opinion, would be some of the biggest lessons or key takeaways that you've taken from having to make any changes like that over time?
Maybe something on my side. Usually when working with vendors, we see there are multiple vendors that are supporting the pharma industry or the manufacturing industry. We need to make sure that their roadmaps align with ours. So we've seen a few times that some of our partners might change directions. Maybe they have multiple clients, so we might not be their first priority. So it's really important to make these strategic collaborations and be in sync with the people you're partnering with. I think this is something important, and we had a few successes and maybe a few failures there, but yeah, we learned our lesson.
Personally, from my end, I think it was the adoption part. So, like, we are used to using headsets and all those cool things, right? But the operators on the shop floor, they are not used to it. So that's where the main challenge was. So for VR, it was good, like they were ready to use it. But like in terms of AR on the shop floor, using a HoloLens, it's a very bulky device, right? So that's where we did a shift change. We started using iPads. So they were like more comfortable to use iPads. So yeah, and I think still it will grow. Like once the technology is much better, once the form factor is reduced, I think they will realize the true potential of it, and they will be okay to start using the headsets and everything. But yeah, like, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, flexibility is definitely a big one too, because I think when we brought the development in-house, I felt like we figured it all out, right? But, you know, the funding climates change, and being able to offer other lower cost solutions like 360 video training and diversifying the portfolio and the different options that you have for the business depending on the climate is important as well.
We got time for one more. Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much. For your training development journey, what were the considerations that made you switch from external vendor to bringing everything in-house?
Yeah, I think the first one, some of those initial proof of concepts that we rolled out and we deployed, once the end users started to get their hands on them, they had a lot of feedback and they had changes that they want done to them. And as soon as we started to collect those changes, we brought it to the vendor, it was a change request and it was another cost. When we moved to the in-house model, we were able to use an agile format. So every 2 weeks, we were just deploying a new build to the end user, getting their feedback, and really owning that code base and being able to make any changes that we needed without having to go through a third party essentially every time.
All right, that wraps up our session. Please give him a hand. Thank you. And that's our last session for this room for today, so you guys have a good evening.